Okay, I think we're live. Welcome to a very, very special edition of Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration. We're coming to you on a live stream from Google, sort of virtual Google. This is my Google home office. I'm in London. Maya Bruni, who's joining me, is in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm really happy to really happy to have Maya with us. I'll give her a brief introduction. Maya is a British athlete and Olympic contender for the Tokyo Olympics in her chosen disciplines of 200 meters, 400 meters, and 4x400. She's the European Junior Championship winner, or bronze medalist, I should say, in the 200 meters, the 4x100, and the 4x400 from 2017. She broke a 30-year standing record on the 200 meters held previously by Shirley Thomas in 2017 in the European Juniors. In 2018, she won gold in the British Universities and College Sports Championship in 400 and 4x100. And in 2019, won gold in the 400 meters in the same competition. If that's not enough, Maya's also a graphic designer, and she's currently completing a master's degree in user experience design. Maya, that sounds like an awfully busy schedule. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate it. It's early in the morning. I think it's something like 7 a.m. in Atlanta, Georgia, which is your training base at the moment. Let's start by talking about your daily schedule. Give us a sense of a day in life in the life of Maya Bruni right now, balancing studies and training.
Right, so right now I'm in Atlanta training with my coach, who's a world champion, lifetime world champion, and Olympic champion. So I have a coach that not only has performed at that international level, but has actually performed at the best competition and has that experience. So he gives us an Olympic training regime, which means that I train twice a day. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I will be at the gym in the morning. So I get there around 6 a.m. And then I train in the track from about 8, 9 a.m. to about 12. Then the rest of my time I spend recovering. So that will be getting chiropractic treatment, getting massages, doing all types of physical recovery to make sure that I'm ready to get to a coach. So even though we get Wednesday and Sunday off days, we still have to use those days wisely. We can't go out and have fun and try and do too much walking around, because we need to make sure that we're conserving that energy for the week training ahead. So it can be hectic.
It sounds amazingly busy. Your audio is a little bit muffled, so if you can sort of speak up a little bit and come a little closer to the mic, that'd be great. So very early starts, lots of training mixed with study, and I'm not sure where you get time with for social life. Hopefully, there's a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, and we do make time to do group outings. You know, we do get together as a group. So yeah, we do try and find a couple hours in the week to fit that in.
Fantastic. Well, that's very important. I can hear you really loud and clear now, so thank you for that. Why Atlanta, Georgia? What are you doing over there? Why aren't you in the UK?
Well, the warmer weather, for starters, during the summer, we have highs of about 33, 35 degrees, which is amazing for track training, because most of the time we're outdoors. The warmer it is, the faster you can run. That tends to be the rule. And I would also say, because that's where my coach, Dwight Phillips, that's where he is based and that's where he's from. So he trains here with a group, and it's an international group. So I have other athletes that are performing, competing for Guyana, Nigeria, and obviously America, and now myself. So we have a really broad range of athletes from different countries.
So it's not just Team GB. It sounds like these are probably your future competitors, right, in the Olympics?
Yeah, exactly. It's the first group I've been in where I'm actually training alongside potentially someone I'd have to line up against in a race on the grand stage. So I'm grateful for that opportunity, because if you're training against your competitors, you are gaining that extra knowledge on how to beat them at the same time, and it's a strange dynamic because we're also off the track, we're great friends. And I think that's what makes the group so like family. It does make it like family.
Well, it sounds like a strange dynamic indeed. Is it weird? I mean, do you try to keep some of the things private so you're not giving away competitive information? I mean, how much is shared there?
We are a pretty open group. I think the mentality in our group is that we want everyone to do well, because if they're doing well, that means I'm doing well. Because at the end of the day, it's about bringing the group up. So there's a team aspect to what we do, which is a bit strange because track and field is an individual sport, which means a lot of it is on us. Bit strange in a pandemic year when a lot of things are completely out of our control. But having that team and being able to be open and share ideas and share recovery methods actually forces us to become a better training group. We actually help each other. So if an athlete gets injured, we're going to be the point of advice to try and help them to get back. Because at the end of the day, I need my training partner to run quickly because that pushes me.
Interesting, because I always sort of imagine track and field to be largely an individual sport, but it sounds very much, at least in the preparation, to be more of a team sport. Fantastic. I mean, what a weird year it's been, 2020, right? So, this is one of a series of talks we're doing around the topic of well-being, and I want to get into that with you, because I think there's a lot that we can learn from how you've managed this in terms of resilience and energy and mental health and so on. And the way top athletes work, as I understand it, is you sort of build up to this peak. So you're absolutely at the peak just before the Olympics, which of course was cancelled in 2020 and hopefully now will happen in 2021. Does that mean that you have to just stay at that peak level of fitness between this year and next year? Is that weird? Is it difficult to keep the energy up in that time?
Well, just like everybody else, the news hit me in March. That's kind of when I found out, okay, there's a pandemic. But I tricked myself and I just thought, okay, well, April, this will be done. I didn't assume that this would, still be a thing now. And I think I did that because as an athlete, you don't want to think that the Olympics is going to be postponed. It's something that we train for 4 years for. It's a massive cycle of training. And for that to be postponed an extra year seems a bit of a drag, to say the least. I do think, we're going to have to do another year of training. And I think having to change my perspective on that situation was key to me being able to train this year. I had to see it as, okay, I've got another year to prepare myself. I have another year of opportunity to make sure that I'm in great shape for next year. And I think keeping that level of performance, keeping that level of training is incredibly difficult. Of course, due to restrictions, they closed gyms, they closed tracks in London, and I was in London at the time. So it was incredibly hard to even just get my usual training sessions in. We do a lot of load, so we do a lot of running, a lot of lifting, and I couldn't do any of that. So I had to make room to try and do it in parks. I downloaded an app even to try and do it at home. I was doing my core exercises at home, just anything just to keep me in shape. To be honest, my main goal was to try and stay at my race weight. That's something that I decided, okay, if everything else is out of my control, this can be in my control. So let me just stay at my race weight, so no matter what happens, I'll be ready to run regardless. So I made that my key goal.
Stay at your race weight, and does that require a fairly strict regimen around diet? How do you manage that? Talk us through staying at your race weight.
Well, weight is actually completely affected by stress. That's the best way of explaining this. And my chiropractor actually explained to me that there are 5 forms of stress: physical, mental, nutritional, chemical, and electromagnetic. And just to go through those a little bit. So physical stress, obviously with our training, we have a lot of physical stress. Mental stress, just being in that routine every day. Sometimes that can just build up. Anxiety, it can build up very easily. Nutritional stress, making sure that our diet are low inflammatory foods is really important. So not so much fried food, eating more vegetables. That is the key for us. And then when it comes to chemical stress, we're looking at the products that we use every day. That could be as small as the deodorant brand that you're using. Sounds really crazy, but the chemicals inside your deodorant that you're putting on every day, what's inside that? Can you switch that to a more organic brand? And it's crazy, but little things like that in such a field make a huge difference. We're working with the thousands of seconds. And then electromagnetical, we're looking at screen time. How often are you watching the news? How often are you checking your emails? Can you cut down that screen time? Because it creeps up in you. That stress does creep up in you. Without realizing, you're actually building up your anxiety levels. So managing those 5 forms of stress is key to running fit.
Well, I'm sure I certainly relate, and most Googlers watching this would relate to the electromagnetic stress. I think we spend hours and hours a day on screens, just like we are at the moment. So I certainly relate to that as well. We're live streamed, so just a reminder to those who are joining us live, you can ping a question across if you've got a burning question to ask Maya. I'll keep an eye on the chat on the screen here, and read that out if you have a question. Let's talk about mental strength. You've spoken a little bit about staying at your race weight and sort of breathing in and thinking, okay, I've got to do this for another year. But it can't be easy, and I think all of us are probably struggling with that in some way. There's this sort of, we're coming in and out of lockdown. Who knows when a scalable vaccine is going to be there. Talk us through your techniques for managing your mental health, your mental attitude.
So for starters, I think breathing exercises is something that I implemented actually a couple of years ago, and meditation, and that really helped just calm me down and keep me in a space where my mind was very clear. So breathing exercises, I would say, was a huge step for me. Even downloading the app Headspace, I found that really a key, simple app that you can do every day, and I found that helpful. And most recently, when I came to Atlanta, my training partner suggested this to me, and it was writing positive affirmations on post-it notes and sticking them around your house. And those post-it notes could be goals, it could be 2021 Olympics, it could be simple things like you can, you must, you will. Writing things down and sticking them around and reading them to yourself, because positive self-talk is so important. How do you speak to yourself is really important, especially when you're by yourself at home, you're coming back from training, you're in this routine of, it can get quite lonely as well, so it's about making sure that you have got those positive affirmations around you that you can read back to yourself. And I found that actually that helps with my mental strength, because you implement that belief in yourself that no matter what happens, I can always find my feet, I can always land on my feet. And I think that was the key this year, because there was so much that was going on externally that, as I said earlier, which is completely out of your control. You have to try and find things, okay, this, I can work on this part of myself. And I think this year really was a huge opportunity to brush up on those things that maybe I wouldn't have thought of last year.
So, a few themes there that are golden. Control the controllables. Headspace, the app, I've used it myself. There's another one called Calm, which is quite good, which is around meditation and keeping that internal dialogue positive by reinforcing some of the things that you want to achieve. We've got some live questions coming in here, so I'll flip over there for a moment. Alex Phillips is asking any deodorants we should avoid.
Oh, well, I don't know if I can really name too many brands, but I think it's really key just to read the ingredients. And normally, a deodorant that has anything more than about 4 ingredients, you shouldn't be using it. That's really a key thing to see, the ingredients, and especially on your cleaning products at home, dish soap, your soap, hand soap. I know hand sanitizers nowadays, that's what we're using all the time. But what hand sanitizer are you using? If you're just buying one from Boots, what's in that? You're putting that on your hands every day. Your body is absorbing those chemicals.
So just prefer natural ingredients. The fewer ingredients, the better. Great advice there. James Batchelor's come in here, and you might need to translate this acronym TNF. I'm a huge fan of TNF, but when I talk to many other sports fans, or track and field, I guess, their hesitation is around doping issues and the integrity of the sport. So rather a controversial question. Yeah. Is enough being done by athletes and authorities to address this doping issue?
Well, for starters, when you become an elite athlete, you have to go onto a program called ADAMS. ADAMS is an acronym, basically it's anti-doping system, where you have to upload your whereabouts. We are probably the only sport that has to do this to such a degree. We have to say literally where we are from like 9 a.m. to 4 a.m. every day. So it can get pretty stressful for athletes, and if you miss 3 tests in the year, you can get banned for 2 years. So we're very strict about, doping rules. And I think the most important thing is that that's being educated with athletes from a young age now. So in 2017, when I was 19 years old, I had to do something called Clean Athletics qualification. So what that did, it was an online course for young athletes to make sure that you understood what the rules are, you knew that what supplements you can take, what supplements you can't take, and also what to do if you're put into a position where a coach is putting that pressure on you, because there are situations where athletes have been forced or felt pressured to do something because their coach has told them. So all of this stuff is really important. I think the education around it has to continue, because that's the best way athletes will know, where do I stand when it comes to certain supplement rules, etc.
So clearly a lot being done already. It sounds like a hugely complex minefield. I think what James is building on here is, with all of that you've just described, do you think there's anything missing? Should more on top of all of that be done in your view? And if you could just project your voice a bit more, it's a little bit muffled again.
In my view, I think at the moment they're doing the best they can. It's quite interesting that track and field, doping is brought up quite a bit with our sports. When you actually look at the difference in other sports such as football, you notice that in football there's probably more athletes that are doping compared to track. But because track and field is an individual sport and we don't work with teams, therefore the money and the sponsorships are very individual. So that means that you notice that football players, they tend to actually be able to, they don't get as much PR when it comes to those kind of situations.
Right. Well, great answer. And James has thanked you for the answer. Very comprehensive answer indeed. Thank you for sharing that. Guy asks, with your busy schedule, I'm curious to learn, how are you disconnecting from your daily routine during COVID time? Great question, Guy. Thank you.
I would say disconnecting from my daily routine. It's quite hard. I just try to make sure that when I come home, I'm home. And I'm really trying to make sure that I give that time to myself. And I understand that nowadays there's a lot of home offices, right? So it can get pretty hard to separate, It can get pretty hard to separate work from home. And I think it's really important to know that your home is your space. So when you come home, try and make sure that you have that space where you can just relax, put something on Netflix, read a book. As I said before, meditate, stretch, use that time at home to do something that's completely separate to what you would do on the track or in the office.
Netflix, any recommendations? What are you watching at the moment?
Oh, actually, I'm watching something on HBO, but I think you can find it on Sky. It's called The Undoing.
The Undoing. Okay, well, watch out for that. Yeah. Good time to be binging on Netflix and YouTube and other channels like it. Thanks for the questions. Please keep them coming, those of you who are on the live stream. Let's talk for a moment, just switch tacks and talk about graphic design. It just seems very different, right? You're an elite Olympic level athlete in track and field and a graphic designer. Is there anything that connects those two?
Well, there's a few things for sure. I think as a track and field athlete, we look at simple things like the clothes that we're wearing. At the moment, I run for my team in the UK, but I also have my team in Atlanta now, which is called the Winner's Circle, and I've been put in charge of designing their kit. So I've had a great time and doing that with the team, and just doing some kit designs, and I've actually released quite a few of them on my design Instagram in the event of a fire. And I've just loved doing that, and it's been such a great opportunity for me as well to just understand how kit design works. And so hopefully we should be seeing those in a few months, and it has been delayed because of COVID, but I'm really excited to see the finished product.
And Instagram, your Instagram is the best place to find it for now, what you're doing. I'll link that below in the description when the recording goes out on YouTube. Fantastic. Let's switch back now to resilience. And, you know, you've had a year of Olympics on, Olympics off, lockdown, gyms available, gyms not available, tracks not available, managing a master's course. And as an athlete, you know, you have to be in the zone, I guess, and it must be very nerve-wracking, you know, the thought of appearing in front of a stadium of people and a global television audience. I mean, how do you, you know, what are the techniques that you use to stay focused and not allow the nerves or the distractions or frustrations to interfere with your mind space there?
Well, in the build-up to a race, I tend to stay away from my phone, so I'll minimize my notifications, maybe even just delete Instagram off my phone, because I don't even want to see any sort of either negative posts, negative comments, or even just the build up to it. You know, for example, the promoters are going to say things. It's quite similar to boxing. Quite funny enough, I've got my Muhammad Ali t-shirt on, who's actually a great, you know, example of resilience. But yes, you know, you need to see that in track and field, the promoters are going to try and create a rivalry almost as well. You know, they have got a favourite in the race. They're going to try and put you against someone else. They might even use that just to drum up, you know, excitement for the race. And as an athlete, you don't want to be involved in that. You need to just focus on getting to the start line in perfect shape and being able to perform in the day. So my biggest advice would be, you know, turn off notifications, stay away from that, and stay focused. And the way I also do that on the week of competition, our training tends to relax a bit. We do something called tapering off, where you literally just do very specific technical drills just to enhance those muscles to just move quicker for your race. So you're not going to do too much running. So it's going to be a really gentle week. So that whole week, the most important thing is keeping your mind in shape, which sounds a lot easier than really what it is, but it is quite hard because it's about staying focused, not having those conversations. And it's pretty funny because I'd say sometimes my own mother can sometimes get very excited, you know, before a race because she's Italian as well. So you can only imagine that, you know, the excitement and also just the energy that she brings. And sometimes it's really important just to be able to be open with family and just be like, okay, I need this time to just focus by myself and just, you know, get ready for this competition. But, yeah, exactly. But it's great to have the support always, and that's what it's like as an athlete. You know, you have to have a support network that understands you and can be okay and doesn't take things personally. You know, that's the key.
Well, I know your family, your mum and dad and sister have been a great part of your success and remain so. Looks like we've got a special guest here, Sam Fenton. That's actually my son. I wasn't expecting him. Hello, Sam. No question at the moment, but do feel free to ask one. We've got a question here from Stefan Treenan. Thanks, Stefan, for the question. Thanks for taking the time, Maya. As a sprinter, your performance is very transparent. What did the COVID period do to your personal bests this year and why?
Well, for starters, there were no races for me to compete in. This was also because I wasn't able to get to Atlanta as there were restrictions in my traveling. So my personal best, I didn't manage to set any this year. Unfortunately, that means that I will be going into next year without having done many races. But I'm not too concerned, because in my training, we make sure that we do kind of race modules. So we try and simulate a race in training. So I'm not too bothered about that. I just miss the crowd, I miss the fans, I miss that energy that you get from competing on a stage. I'm looking forward to the indoor season, which will start in December and finish around February. And the way things are going in 2021, from what I've been hearing from Japan, is that it should be going ahead. So I'm staying pretty optimistic that next year is going to be a go, and my training is geared up towards that. And I think that's the only thing I can tell myself. I have to tell myself that 2021 is happening, even if there's a few questions around it. And I need to be able to wake up every day with that goal in my mind, and that's what keeps me pushing that training.
Well, brilliant, and I suppose you're not alone, right? I guess other athletes are in the same position. Another great question here from James. Thanks for the question, James. Last year, I saw some experimental events like mixed relays, male and female, gender mixed relays. I thought they were great to watch. Any other innovative ideas you've seen or heard coming or would like to see?
Well, the mixed relays, I thought that was great as well. That was at the World Relay Championships, which, fingers crossed, I might be going to next year as well. So we'll see. But yeah, other innovative ideas. They were thinking about a hurdle relay, which is pretty interesting. Get the hurdlers to do a relay. I don't know how that's going to work with passing the baton, because, as you know, hurdlers are very aggressive when they cross the line, because they have to be to get there. So that could be quite an interesting, very pretty dangerous one too, maybe. Probably great to watch.
Sounds incredibly dangerous. Yeah, definitely entertaining to watch. Have you ever been involved in a mixed race yourself?
I haven't been involved in mixed race. I do think, though, a lot of it will be tactical in terms of where you position. As you know, male athletes are faster than female athletes. That's just fact, because of our physical. So, it'll be interesting to see. I noticed some teams, they like to put a male athlete first, then 2 female athletes, and then end on a male athlete. Other teams switch it around and do the other way. But there's no rules on how you can position the athletes in the relay. So sometimes you notice that one team will end on a female, but the gap hasn't been built up enough. So you see people getting overtaken at the last line. So they are really entertaining, and I look forward to hopefully being part of that.
Yeah, brilliant. They sound very interesting, and as James says, good for TV potentially. It'd be a fascinating thing to watch with the tactics and that sort of thing. There is a difference. You referred to that in times. It's not a huge difference, though. It's fair to say, isn't it? I mean, 200-meter time. I think. What's your personal best? 23, something like that.
Yeah, low 23, so 23.04.
And what would be an elite performer at the same level in the male category? What would their time?
I mean, I've seen men run 19. I mean, that's the world record. It's a mid-19 seconds.
Yeah.
But male athletes probably my same age are probably running about 21, 20, high 20 seconds. So, I feel like the gap is probably is always around 1 second. If we're looking at Olympic champions, it's going to be around maybe 1 second.
1 second, yeah. So it's
sounds like a lot, by the way. It doesn't sound like a lot, but 1 second is in track and field. You do see that as a gap.
It's an eternity. Well, that's a really interesting segue into the next question. I remember the last time we spoke, not on this call, but a previous one. You were talking about your training regime and success in Atlanta, and I think you've made some huge improvements, haven't you, in your personal best and your time? Can you talk about the margins that you're operating with there and what sort of progression that you've seen?
So when I came to Atlanta, I knew I was joining the group that had 400-meter sprinters. And for me, I wanted to make sure that I could do a 400 meters in a better time. So when I came there, I had a time of 53 seconds, which is pretty fast. But I know that compared to some American athletes, they're running a lot quicker than me. So I was straight away exposed to a group that I wasn't doing that great in when I first got here. I was struggling fitness-wise even, because some of our sessions we do 300 meters uphill, which can get pretty tiring. can get pretty tiring. So it wasn't something I was used to at all. And so coming into a group that did that and doing that sort of training, after 2 months, 3 months, I noticed a 2-second difference in my 400-meter target time, which means we set target times every month and you do a 400-meter race to see where you're at. And it's a race, but it's also a personal thing where you would just jot down in your notebook and just see your progression. And when I first got there, I did it in 60 seconds. And by the time I had to come back to London, I was hitting 53 seconds. So it was like a 7-second difference in training, which is pretty insane. And it was just a testament to all the work that I had done and just a great positive feedback, to tell me that, hey, look, this move to Atlanta, though it was very spontaneous, probably the most spontaneous move I've made, but I think it was worth the jump.
I mean, yeah, 7 seconds, and that's against the baseline of 60, I think you said?
Yes, a baseline of 60, yeah.
So more than over 400 meters, and that's more than a 10% improvement, obviously. That's absolutely extraordinary. And it sort of points to some of the differences between the way that training works in the UK and that training works perhaps in the US. You talked about uphill running as an example. Are there any other examples that distinguish?
Well, we have another session where we do stadium stair runs, really long stadium stairs, because the stadiums in America are pretty crazy. We train on a football field and then there's a track around the football field. So the stadiums are real big, serious stadiums that we have to run. And not only that, but we do a circuit. So you run to the top of the stadium, you jog back down, you then pull a sled, which will have about 20 kilos on there, pull a sled for 100 meters, and then you'd run a 300 meters. And you do that 3 times. So that's the level of training that I'm at the moment. And if you told me I was going to be doing this a couple of years ago, I would have been laughing. I never thought it would be possible. But it's no doubt why America and Jamaica as well, why they tend to be Olympic champions. You do tend to see the American and Jamaican flag on the podium at the Olympics all the time. And yeah, no wonder why. They're training
it sounds absolutely tortuous, and to me anyway, and extremely difficult. We've got a great question here from Carolina. Thanks, Carolina, for the question. Maya, thanks so much. Nutrition-wise, what kind of foods would you advise one to eat before training, and how much time beforehand to best perform? Sounds like a question from one athlete to another.
Great. Well, that's a great question. For me, I give myself 2 hours. And that's purely because I know that I have a lot of running to do and I don't give myself 2 hours, I'll throw it up. So 2 hours is a key time frame for me. And the type of food that I eat, well, my mother is a nutritional therapist. So I'm really lucky to have her in my life because she gave me something called an intolerance test, which is actually widely available online. You can actually do that from home. And what that does is it will individualize your diet. Because I could suggest, for example, have a sandwich with bacon in the morning. But if your body doesn't break down wheat, that diet is not going to work for you. So this intolerance test really picked out the foods that are best for me. And from there, I was able to say, okay, create a diet plan for my week. And I can stick within that. And I think that's the main thing, is really individualizing your plan. But basically, I would always say that porridge, oatmeal, some fruits is always great before training. It gives you enough carbs, it gives you enough energy to last the session.
Okay, interesting. And where would you go? Where would one go for an intolerance test? Are they? You said they're freely available. If
freely online. Yeah, so if you
online.
Yeah, so if you were to literally just type in, do a nice search of an intolerance test, it's something that you could find, and they send you a kit to do at home as a pinprick test, and then you get your results back. I think it's about 3-4 weeks to get your results back, but it's a very in-depth report of the foods that are not sitting well with you and the foods that are. So it's very beneficial, and you really need to take one in your life. So yeah, I'd recommend doing that.
Great advice. I have a breakfast routine which involves Weetabix and coffee, Tomorrow I'll be changing to porridge with some fruit, and that will help me sprint up the stairs to my home office much quicker than I did this morning. Thanks so much, Carolina, for the questions. Please do keep the questions coming. They're fantastic questions. Talk about your plans. We're sort of coming up to the end of the year. You're going to stay in Atlanta. You're going to come back here.
So I am planning to stay here until the end of January, and then hopefully, be able to compete in February at the British Championships. It's also worth noting to say, actually, that I'm in a position where I have also been approached by Italy to maybe compete for Italy and switch to the Italian team, which is a massive opportunity that actually just recently came up a couple of weeks ago. So I'm in talks now to see maybe we'll be going to Italy instead of going back to London. So things change really quickly in the sport, and so I'm just seeing where it takes me. At this day to day.
As a British citizen, I have to plead with you on behalf of everyone that's watching. Please compete for Great Britain. You might now need to explain why Italy, though.
Right. No. So half my family live in Italy, so I've always felt that a great connection with the Italian team. And in 2017, the European Championships was in Italy. So I don't know. I have this feeling that it does bring me great performances. So it's something that's always been on the back of my mind. But I'll have to see what my options are in terms of how easy is it going to be for me to travel there. How is the team management work? So it's still pretty much up in the air. But I should find out where I stand probably in the next month or so.
Fantastic. Well, as I say, I hope that Britain gets the benefit of your talent. Great question here from Satyan. Thank you, Satyan, for the question. How and when do you make the decision to change your coach and adapt to a new regime? You might need to answer that one a bit tactically or carefully.
Well, for starters, you need to see what was the issue with your last season, if there was one. So we always have a reflective phase that tends to happen in about October. So you look at what works, what didn't work. It's a bit like a reflective time, and you just go through periodically what you need to work on. And once you've done that, if you feel that the majority of the issues were at fault of your coach or the team that you're training with rather than your own, then you might want to decide, okay, maybe I need to change, or maybe I need to sit down with my coach and actually see if we can work through things. It's a relationship at the end of the day. And it's something that you always need to touch base on. And at the moment with my current coach in Atlanta, the best thing about him is that his communication is great. So we can have touch base, I can just call. It's, really easy relationship with him where I feel I can always let him know where I'm at. And I think that's the most important thing for me. It was able to be with a coach that I can share my views with too, and make sure that this was more of a collaborative approach rather than just coach telling athlete what to do and athlete doing it. I'm someone that loves to also be able to have say in what I do and also being trusted. I think that trust between both parties is really important. My last coach was brilliant as well. What my only issue was, I just felt that for my event, which was the 400 at the time, I thought I wanted to push more at. He more did 100 meters. So I wanted to be with a group that actually trained a bit longer, that had a bit more experience doing longer events. So that was my decision to move.
Right. Well, you've answered that incredibly diplomatically. Congratulations for that. The questions are getting more and more controversial. Another one here from Stefan. You've not mentioned money as a motivator. How important is the financial incentive for your decision to focus on your athletic career versus, for example, exploring your other interests in graphic design or whatever else?
Well, I'm a big believer that if you're passionate about something, you don't need to worry about money because that's going to come. If you're passionate about something, people are going to notice that, sponsorships are going to notice that, and they're going to want to pay you because you're showing that passion for it. It's not something that you're doing just because you're going to get paid. And I think that's what makes myself as an athlete different from other athletes, is that even if I get cut from a sponsorship, even if I don't make a team, I'm still going to show up for training because I love what I do. I'm not just doing this for financial incentive at all. Having said that, though, it's obviously nice to get paid for something that you like to do as well. And of course, this year with coronavirus, it's hard to put out time, and that's something that sponsorships are looking for. So I was with Puma up until 2019, and my plan was to be able to compete this year and then get another 4-year contract. Obviously, this year that didn't happen, so that put a bit of a delay on my plan for sponsorship and funding. But it's not something I stress about because I know that I'm here training, getting the work done. So I know that as soon as I have the opportunity to compete, which will come soon, I am pretty sure, I'm pretty confident that I am going to be able to get those performances out there, and I'm going to be able to attract the funding that I need to continue. So yeah, money as a motivation, I don't, it hasn't worked for me, but I know that there are athletes that it does work for them. So I think it's a personal thing, personal preference.
Well, I think there's some great advice. There were a few audio issues there, so I'll sort of repeat the essence of what you said, which is the message to focus on the passion. You do what you do because you love it, and money will follow, not always in the pattern that you would like. You were with Puma up until 2019. Of course, Puma, like many other big brands, have had to revisit their priorities, I guess, in the context of COVID in 2020. But that's cool. You're patient, and the next thing will come along soon. What a great question. Thank you, Stefan. I'm gonna give you a closing question here. Many people watching are business people like me, who have had a year of lockdown, a year of talking on screens like we are at the moment, tremendous uncertainty, and a bit of a routine that sometimes feels like it never changes. What advice would you have that you found helpful? And you've talked of a few ideas. What advice would you have for people like me in business that can keep you motivated, excited, and energized for the future?
I would have to go with my post-it note idea, simply because it's the easiest one to do, and you can even just stick them on your computer screen, and it's something that you can just read every day. You can tick off things every day, and it gives you that sense of achievement. If you were to set short goals, I think now that's the key. Don't think too long term. Keep things short and sweet. So what do you want to achieve today? What do you want to achieve this week? And I think that's the most important thing. And if you can write those down and tick those off every day, you're going to feel motivated to keep going. And that's probably my best advice.
I love that. So positive affirmations on the post-it notes. And you mentioned short-term goals, and I need to hold this up to the camera. I've got these post-it notes. These are my goals today. There's 3 things. These are my goals for this week. 3 things, and I've got a 1 month, but that's about as far out as it goes. So I think that's great advice. We'll leave it there today. I really appreciate you joining me early morning from Atlanta, Georgia. I wish you all the very best for the training and the lead up to the Olympics. I hope to see you in the Olympics. Hopefully for Great Britain, if not for Italy. You're an absolute inspiration, Maya Bruni. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Craig. Thank you.